How long will it take to get in shape? How long do I need before my diet goes back to what I was eating before? How long until I look like you? Short-minded, short-sighted, short-term results. You see, this is what the health and fitness space is full of. Evolved men and women don't ask these questions, though. Evolved men and women learn that they progress by creating repeatable habits, and they never stop challenging themselves. I've said it for years that today's guest is the most creative trainer in the entire United States. And I believe that creativity is what keeps him and his clients going year after year. Welcome to the Evolve Podcast. Evolve your body, evolve your mind, evolve your soul, and evolve your tribe. And now it's time to disrupt. And with that, folks, we want to welcome you to another episode of the Evolve Podcast. Joining me with a brand new hip from Oberlin, Ohio, is the most interesting man that I know, W. Miles Riley. Welcome, Miles.
Thank you. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Steve.
You are the bionic man today, right?
Just get to our guests. Just introduce our guests.
He's been a tough one to get on because he's so busy and he is all over the place. I mean, literally all over the world. You'll see this guy doing yoga on a beach, climbing up trees and knocking down coconuts. I mean, and then when he gets the coconuts, he just tears them open and does push-ups from it. Like, it's just unbelievable what this guy does. We are really fortunate today to be joined by Surba Tucker. Surba is a widely recognized fitness professional, spokesman and model who has trained a wide array of athletes from the NFL, Major League Baseball, professional golfers, Ironman competitors, NCAA basketball players, and high school sports competitors. Surba pays close attention to the specific nutrient requirements, caloric intake, and expenditure for each client, and Surba places a significant focus on improving core strength for the basis for achieving his clients' goals. Surba also prides himself on creating challenging, unique, and intense fitness programs for his clients. He trains clients for everyday life functionality as well as their physical and mental challenges that they wish to conquer. Surba Tucker, what an honor it is to have you joining us on the Evolve Podcast. Welcome.
It sure is.
Thank you, gentlemen. I love both of you. I've shared space with you for decades,
yes,
and it's a privilege to be here. Decades. So it's a privilege to be here.
We are so lucky to have you. What did we not put into this bio? Because, I mean, there is so much that we could say, but I almost feel like that your bio is better seen than said. If people see you work out, they understand, or they see you train, they understand what you do, but it is so hard to describe. What did we miss in that bio, though, Surba?
The basis of everything that I do is play. So we can go hard all we want. We can be purposeful, but if the core belief system is that if we're just playing, we're having fun, nothing is difficult. Yeah. I always go back to that childhood 7-year-old self that had zero cares in the world, that wanted to climb trees, knock down those coconuts, grab the mangoes, the papayas, you name it. And if I failed and didn't get all the way up the tree, I did it again. There was no concern about what people thought. If I go back to that 7-year-old self, everything I do is about play.
And then the possibilities open up. The possibilities become infinite when you're playing.
They're infinite.
Yeah.
Because, I know you both have kids. One of the greatest things is when they show you something they've done and they're like, Dad, look at this. Look, hey, let's go do this. And the joy that's created in that space is embedded. It's embedded in their heads, their brains, their minds, and in everything that they do. So once I understood that years ago, that adults go to a gym to work out, if I could change that mindset and have it be a playground, then they would love to come and see me. They have butterflies because the anticipation is like, what is this fool going to have me do today? Right?
And that's really what your workouts and how you take people through workouts look like. They look like play. And I think for our listeners, it's probably important for them to pause for a second and to take themselves back. As parents, we can look at it and say, well, I know what it's like to watch my kids play when they were younger. But as an adult, we forget what that felt like. I mean, I remember as a kid, whatever it was that I was playing. I mean, I grew up in the 80s, and so Star Wars and all of those things, Transformers, like I never got self-conscious of playing with my Transformers or my Star Wars, or even just, going out and shooting hoops in the front yard or playing stickball on the street, right? These were never things that we were self-conscious about. And we never really, it never felt like work. But we forget that. And at a certain point, we decide that we have to grow up, and now we have to go to work. Everything has to be work. Talk about how you have, in your own personal life, shifted this idea of a workout to more of a play system.
Wait, before he goes, I want him to answer the question. He's got to answer that question.
Okay.
But it was interesting a second ago you said about shooting hoops. Let me give our guests a little taste of a Surba-ism.
Yeah.
Surba sent me a video of him hanging upside down.
I love this.
Throwing the ball off the wall, and it went in.
Yep.
Bam.
All right? Because shooting hoops is fun and this and that. Only Surba would say, how do I redefine this? Let me hang upside down and throw the ball off the wall.
Yeah.
And he did it. And that's who we're talking to today. So now you can answer this question.
And maybe later we'll get into the competitive back and forth that you guys had with shooting hoops. But
yeah. So, I mean, Miles is from New York, so we know how New Yorkers operate. Mm-hmm. There's a whole lot of chit chat that comes with New Yorkers.
Oh, that's a good way to describe it. Chit chat. Yeah, chit chat.
There's a whole lot of chit chat.
A whole lot of chit chat.
So I always believe that if you take yourself too seriously, it's really the impetus for going wrong in every aspect of your life. Wow. So I don't take myself too seriously. For instance, it's February. Gyms are packed and they're full of people who have no gym etiquette, who just take up space, but they're starting their journey. So often I'll walk into a gym space, and I have numerous gym memberships. And because I have play in mind, regardless of what the environment is, I'm not going to get upset because something that I intended to play with isn't available. I'll just create. I simply create with the environment that I'm dealt with. I add structure to play, though. Let's just be frank and transparent. I don't just go into my playgrounds and say, let me just do this today. No, I always have a plan. Okay, some sort of structure that I'm working towards. If it's trail running season, I know that I need to get my heart rate up and do multiple joint exercises that are functional. If I have tight calves, I may not work on jumping that day. I may work on other things. I always have a plan with an end goal in mind. So the play is fun, but it's always structured. And understanding that I have an end goal, regardless of what is available to me, I'm always going to be in play mode.
I love that. I know that you also name some of your workouts. I know that like in the past you've named Armageddon. That's your arm day. And I've seen you do some of the most creative arm exercises that I would have never thought of. Right. I want to kick back to a few years ago. One of the questions that I asked you, I know a long time ago, is I said, how do you do this? Like you are so creative with how you come up with your play. And this whole idea of Armageddon, I can't even remember what it was that you had done on one of these workouts that I was looking at. I thought, oh my gosh, I would have never thought about using that combination of things as an arm workout. But I would imagine you get an incredible pump from doing that, or an incredible strength or whatever. Talk about the creativity that you have. So there is structure, but then where does the creativity play into this? Because you are incredibly creative with the stuff you come up with.
So I think in this fitness field, you have to have the science behind it, right? Yeah. You got to understand where the energy comes from and where the caloric intake comes from and how to produce those results. But within those boundaries is a space that's artistic. Okay. And there are people in our industry who just follow, line one, line two. Okay, it says to do this next. Well, often in my early career, I followed those, like, oh man, I got to do this. This person has tight hip flexors, so we're going to work on their low back, their psoas. And then I realized I would make a plan as a personal trainer. I would make a plan structured for that client's needs, and they would present at 7 a.m. and they're exhausted because they had a night shift, schedule, and they hadn't slept. So I had to throw it out. So early on in my career, I was forced to actually deal with the reality of clients' lives aren't necessarily structured. And I needed to become creative. If they were injured, I needed to figure out a way, okay, they were in a walking boot, how do we work legs? So I'm able to access the creative space that I think it's a natural God-given gift that I can see what the end goal needs to be, and let's paint. Miles is an artist. He's a musician, and there are times where you just have to go on a solo and you get to play whatever comes into your space. And that's what I do, is I access the science that I know with that creative artistic side that is always been it's in my DNA. It's just how it is.
I love that. I love the fact that it's flexible.
You have to be present to do that.
Yes.
You have to be present. That's one of the key things. Is it's almost as if you're snatching from some creative field that you're totally present to, and it's intuition and inspiration, and you have to be present-minded to do that.
Yeah, I like that intuition piece.
Let me quote something. I wasn't always a voracious reader, but in the last year, actually, it's going to be just in the last 7 months, I listened to, via audiobooks, a book every 24 to 48 hours.
Wow.
So in the last 7 months, 9 months now, I've finished 125 books.
Wow.
The top book in relation to what we're talking about, there's a book by Stephen Kotler called Stealing Fire.
Okay, and I know that book.
Have you guys read Stealing Fire?
No,
I read Stealing Fire.
I'm writing that down.
Kotler writes Art of the Impossible, Stealing Fire, and he's got a new book coming out called Gnar Country, as in like gnarly. And what his entire research is about performance. And stealing fire is this source of energy, right? It's how do we enhance our performance? And he, in Stealing Fire, discusses use of psychedelics and things like that SEALs, Navy SEALs, artists, Silicon Valley folks, when they create and innovate and create flow, it's exponential growth that is resulting in all of their areas of their life and in their businesses. So I don't do psychedelics, but what I'm interested in is how do we train the brain to enhance its performance every single day? So for me, that's through play, that's through focus, that's through connection. Like we've all been in situations as people in the fitness industry where you've noticed someone who is working with a client and they are not paying attention to anything that's going on.
Yeah.
All they're looking at is that girl with the big butt or the chest or whatever, right? And there's no connection.
Yep.
I only did that once, Surba.
Listen, you make the mistake once. You make it once. And then if you're called out on it, you realize, hey, listen, if I'm here to serve this other human being, I need to pay attention to everything. I'll give you an example. When I first began, and I think I've been in the industry like 20 years, I was so connected. I took it personal if a client cried, if they got mad, if they were unhappy. Then I broke a code. I realized there's a code in muscles. Muscles release trauma when they're put under pressure.
Yeah.
And there's 3 responses. People cry when they're under pressure. They laugh when they're under pressure, and those people are crazy. And they are. If you're crying awesome. When you're getting tortured, there's a problem. We got to deal with it. And the other piece is they'll get mad. So when I realized that I was so connected that I took it personal, I needed to step away and disconnect and just observe them and realize how I needed to push people. But I get connected with everyone that's in my space. That's probably my superpower, is I create connection.
You're very good at staying present. And I agree that that is probably your superpower that leads to many other superpowers, because as Miles mentioned before, that being present allows you to create within that moment. I think just like the other day when I ran into you at the gym, you come face to face and you are completely present in every conversation. Every time we've chatted, it's heart to heart, eye to eye. Like we're just like, we are right there. And that's a very rare thing in society today. It's extremely rare for people to be totally connected and present in that particular moment. I want to talk about that relative to time, because far too often people think that they don't have the time to be present. They don't think they have the time to read books. They don't think they have the time to train or the time to prep their food. You master your time pretty well, from my perspective. Talk about what you do to manage your time so that you can be present in that moment, so that you can be, you can get the workouts in, you can eat well. What are you doing to manage time?
Number one is I schedule it. So everyone says they're busy, right?
Yep.
I may blow your minds here. I sleep 4 hours total a night.
Yeah.
So that means I have 20 hours to be productive in my day or my night or whatever that is. Recently did some research, and I'm what's considered a short sleeper, which means that there is a genetic, I'm not going to call it a defect, but they found 2 DNA strands that identified people as short sleepers, which means we sleep 4.1 to 6.2 hours a night. We fall into REM and deep REM immediately and wake up with or without an alarm after 4.1 or 6.2 hours.
Wow.
So I take full advantage of the 20 odd hours in my day. I utilize my phone scheduling capabilities, and I quite literally have every minute of my day scheduled from the time that I wake up till I shut it down at about 8:30 when I start to fall asleep.
Okay.
But I also prioritize, one of the best examples I can give you as being able to be successful in the start of your day is no one owns the first hour of my day other than me. I know, Steve, I know that's something that you follow as well.
Yeah.
Which means that my day starts with meditation. It starts with, it started with before I went to bed. I have an intention before I go to bed on something that I want to work on or think about or solve. And I do that while I'm sleeping. So I consciously sleep. I don't unconsciously sleep. I sleep on purpose. I dream on purpose. I have clear vision of what I want the next day to be like. In the time before I went to bed, it means that my supplements are laid out. My water bottles are laid out for the next day. My food is prepared. My schedule, knowing what each client's going to be working on, that's laid out. The calls that I need to make, the texts that I need to send are all in my notes on a to-do list for that day. There's structure in every minute in the time that I'm working, 12 or 13 hours that I'm seeing clients, every minute is accounted for.
Talk about the conscious sleep piece. I know this is something that it is not happening for a lot of people. I mean, a lot of people struggle with sleep. And I started some time ago doing the same type of practice where I would go to sleep with an intention, with a focus. There's a routine that I go through at night, not just to put myself to sleep, but to focus so that when I do go to sleep, there's something speaking to my soul, and whether it's a problem or that I'm trying to solve, a solution that I'm trying to create, whatever it is, there's a conscious sleep. What does your process look like?
So to begin with, I have a circadian rhythm that I've established. So my bedtime is the same at every day, and my wake time is the same at every day. So I have an 8 p.m. alarm that advises me that it's time for bed in 30 minutes.
Gotcha.
So in that 30 minutes, I'm winding down. The phone gets put down. There's no blue light. I'm generally listening to an audiobook. So that has my brain slowed down. I have a journal that I'm keeping that I start I'm old school, so I write down a lot. And once I've written it down, it's in my head. I never forget it. If it's floating out there somewhere in the universe, we're going to forget, right?
Yep.
So I've established a routine prior to going to bed that I disconnect from the phone. I don't answer texts. I don't reply to emails. I am in a state of it's Surba time. Then, knowing what my day or the next couple of days look like, I have usually follow-up, or I have some sort of creative responsibility that I need to attend to. I'm partners in 4 different businesses right now, which means that my input, creativity, innovation is on full alert at all times.
Mm-hmm.
So I manage at one time, I manage one of those businesses throughout my day many times. So I always have an intention that I'm working on to solve an issue or to create contact, to make connections. So I go to bed with those things. And if you are sleeping consciously, it means that you're able to fall into REM sleep. You're able to fall into recovery. You're able to fall into a dream state very quickly. And we know that you vacillate between REM and deep REM multiple times in a sleep cycle.
Right.
So I utilized technology, the Whoop app, about 2 years ago to understand what my sleep cycles were. And I realized that I would wake up due to environmental noises or my dog at certain times of the night. So I resolved those issues. I took my dog out to go potty before we went to bed. So therefore he wouldn't wake up and shake, and I would hear that, and it would ruin my sleep cycle. Also, it was too warm in my house, so the furnace would go on or it would go off, and I would hear it. So I resolved those environmental issues, and now my sleep is uninterrupted. I can be in this dream state fully and then fall into the recovery state. All the information that I don't need, my brain says, okay, we'll file that somewhere else, we'll keep this. I don't interrupt those dream and sleep and recovery states. Now, that takes 2 hours. I generally wake up 2 hours after that, feeling fully refreshed. And because I'm in a very creative space, I'm consciously sleeping, I'll wake up and I'll do work. Whatever it is I've been dreaming about or whatever it is that I'm working on, I actually start doing work. And that could be I'm updating a social media page, or I'm typing out a text but not sending. Right? You can type it out but not send it. Type out emails, not send it. So they're going to get done later. I fall back asleep after about an hour or two and sleep for another 2 hours and go through the same recovery and dream state, wake up 2 hours later, and I am fully refreshed.
That's amazing. And it goes against what a lot of people's standard cycle is, right? But
okay,
it works for you. And I found the same type of thing. Yeah, go ahead.
Steve, people are unhealthy.
Yes.
So when you're unhealthy, if you go to a hospital, no one's running around like me. They're sleeping, right?
Yes.
They're recovering.
Yeah. Yep.
So I'm not in those sleep studies. They don't ask a guy that's got 9% body fat, that's almost 50 years old, that has 0.2 pounds of cerebral fat to be in a study.
Right.
They want unhealthy people, right? So already I'm an outlier. Yep. And that's okay. That's perfectly, I don't want to be normal. I don't want to be average. I don't use those words. So we are told you need 8 to 10 hours because you lose X number of years of your life if you don't sleep. Well, that's a norm, okay? And I don't require, and I've never required more than 4 to 6 hours each night. If you forced me to lie in bed, I would lose my mind.
Yeah.
I can't sit there. I've got to be working on something. I've got to be reading. I've got to be planning. I'm a mover. I have end goals. They need to get accomplished. They need to get executed.
I think there's so much to unpack there. Yeah, go ahead,
think about the narrative that sets up with people. You know, all of a sudden you tell them, well, you're supposed to get 7 to 8 hours of sleep. And if you don't, you feel like something's wrong with you instead of having the ability to investigate, okay, what do I really need? You said something really interesting when you were talking about the sleep, of paying attention to your environment.
Yes.
Making sure your dog goes to the bathroom so that he doesn't wake you up, making sure the fireplace. And oftentimes when I hear people say, oh, I don't sleep that good, and I ask, what are you doing about it? And they just say, I don't sleep too good. Yeah. So they don't know how to be present enough to manipulate their environment. Yeah. Try going to bed at the same time every day. Try stop taking a shower and submerge yourself.
Yes.
Try different things. Try put on some meditative music, but people just accept, I don't sleep good.
Yep.
Yes.
And then you add to the narrative of you should be getting 7 to 8 hours of sleep. Psychologically, that must really wreck people. So now they're deeper into the whole, well, I just give up, I can't sleep. And maybe you are that small percentage of people who only need 4 hours of sleep.
Yeah. But let's unpack that a little bit more. I don't Netflix and chill to relax.
Yes.
Okay. That's a stimulant.
Totally
that's not part of my lifestyle.
Yep.
Right.
I utilize audiobooks to have my brain in a creative space, and then I can turn it off. You said you referred to white noise. If my brain is busy, I'll put on sounds of waves crashing to slow my brain down. Your circadian rhythm, you must know what it is. You must know when the time is in your day that you start to fall asleep, and that has to be the same every day.
Yep.
The time you wake up has to be the same. I don't care if your first appointment is at 9, wake up at 6. Give yourself your first hour. But what we do is, because we don't have a circadian rhythm, we don't set up our environment to allow sleep to happen quickly. Mm. We say we need 7 or 8, but quite literally, we may only get 5 because those 2 hours are spent counting sheep or thinking and worried about things you can't control. I don't allow that into my space. I know I can't control my externals. I can only control my internal. So I don't worry about things I can't control, and I'm able to fall asleep on purpose.
Yeah, I love that. And this whole idea of, not just going along with what is out there, what people say, but actually testing these things out. There are standard principles of go to bed at the same time, get up at the same time. Colder rooms, you tend to sleep better. I mean, there's some science out there that these principles work, but what is that for every person? There is no standard, right? And I think that what's happened, especially in America, is we love to talk about science. We love to, report on what the latest study has told us. But then when you look at the study, it was probably done in a very short period of time on a bunch of people who are extremely unhealthy. Yes. And that does nothing to educate what optimal is. I lived in this, Andrew Huberman coined the term, I think it was like sleep stress or something like that. Sleep anxiety is what he called it. Yeah. And I lived with sleep anxiety for a long time because I felt like that I was supposed to get more sleep. I don't need more than about 5 or 6 hours. I'm not as low to that 4 hour space as what you are, but I need about 5 or 6. If I'm in that range, I'm pretty good. And it really depends on, if I'm hitting my rhythm the way that I need to. If I go to bed later for some reason, then it affects me, but then the next day I'm fine. Testing things out and literally keeping a journal, doing these habits that make you feel great. I mean, what an amazing life. We started the episode with this concept of how long do I need to do this? Because that's something that we all hear for so much in the health and fitness industry. How long do I need to sleep like this? How long do I need to stay on this diet until I look good? And then can I go back to my old ways, right? That's not what it's about. It's about you as a human being are built with light and energy. And how do you tap into that? How do you get to the deepest part of your soul so that you can bring that out and manifest the ultimate evolution of who you are? Surba, this has been an ongoing experiment of sorts for you, figuring out what works for you and your body and your soul. How did you get on this path? What did that look like for you?
Man, you know how change happens, right? It happens when we fall deep.
Yeah.
When we're in a dark space and things haven't worked out, we're forced to make a change and do things different, because the antithesis is just insanity, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. So I think as I've progressed emotionally, man, I think I was a narcissistic, selfish, look at me individual 20 plus years ago. And I think I went through a failed relationship and realized, man, I don't have to live into this misogynistic, narcissistic mentality. And I needed to make a change. So I started reading. I started doing work. I started doing research. I looked at generational dysfunction in my family. I looked at, I started to question, if I had fears, what were the sources of those? And when did I decide that I couldn't do something? Or when did I decide that I wasn't worthy of love? I wasn't worthy of something. So it took introspection, but it took being in a dark place to understand it. Now, I suffer from seasonal affective disorder. So that means that I have SAD. It's, that the winter blues. Okay.
Yeah.
For many years, I would hibernate. You guys wouldn't see me in the gym from October till like February.
I remember that.
Right.
Yeah.
My friends would call me. I wouldn't answer the phone. And I needed to unpack what the heck was going on. So about 5 years ago, I changed my eating habits. I stopped eating meat. I eat only plants. I drink 1 gallon to 2 gallons of water a day. I'm what's referred to as an OMAD, 1 meal a day. So I fast for 23 to, with variance, 23 to 30 hours a day. There are days that I eat at 5. There are days that I eat at 11 p.m. at night if I wake up and eat. There are days I don't eat and I'll fast for 24. I needed to change my gut health, which impacted my allergies or lack thereof. I don't have anymore. My sinus issues, I don't have anymore. My immunity, I never got COVID. I don't get the flu. I don't get sick. I don't get colds. It assisted with my mental health. So what I'm saying is it took falling deep in the dark waters and realizing that I needed to swim and get out. And that required that I research what was happening to my body. And then I reached out to friends and made connection, because connection probably is the greatest key to our health and wellness.
Yeah.
Isn't it ironic that in the darkness, the depths of darkness is the light?
The light, man.
Yeah.
There can't be light if there's no darkness. There can't be light.
I know.
There's got to be darkness for light.
Greater the light, greater the shadow. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a famous line in the movie Wall Street. Charlie Sheen walks back to the office and Hal Holbrook walks up to him. He said, "Bud, I like you." He said, "Bud, man stares into the abyss. And when nothing stares back at him, it's when he finds himself."
That's fact. That is fact, Miles.
It is in those darker times that we tend to find ourselves, because we reach that point where we look around, the darkness is there, And then there's the beam of light that we see that starts to pull us out. And, we can't do that on our own. We have to do that through connection. And I know that that's been one of the crucial pieces to how you live your life. In fact, I saw you were doing some sort of glute workout the other day with Shelby Castleton, who was on episode 52 of the Evolve podcast, the queen of glutes. I mean, she is an inspiration. And you were doing a glute workout with her. But talk a little bit about how you set up your health and fitness, because it's not just a matter of this, it's cool, creative, whatever. Like you've got this tribal mentality when it comes to fitness, and not just what you do in the gym, but then where you go on vacation and how you're going to move when you're on vacation. Walk our listeners through your thought process there. Cause I love it. I've stolen parts of it that I utilize with my family and my friends. So I'd love for our listeners to hear how you think through the whole workout and that tribal mentality.
What I've discovered is that we can accomplish so much more in groups than we can solo. And what really exacerbated that process or sped it up for me was COVID. During COVID, we did not have access to each other.
Yeah.
We could not connect. We couldn't go outside, because we're afraid of each other, right? And what I created, I think in April of 2020, was what I called a fit tribe. You use the word tribe. I create multiple tribes based on my passions. So I have 150 people in my fit tribe, and we would go on scheduled bi-weekly hikes to waterfalls, to peaks, summits in Utah. And we would conduct what I call trail therapy. Tell me what you're feeling. Tell me what you're going through. My gosh, I haven't seen you in such a long time. How are you dealing with this lack of connection? And quite literally created the space for people to connect with each other. And that has allowed me, once that became cemented, I have a fitness tribe. I have a running tribe. I have a business tribe. I have other entrepreneurs that I connect with and then put in contact with each other, because like Gladwell says, I am a connector. Malcolm Gladwell in Tipping Point says, there's certain kinds of people. I'm that guy you meet on a plane. I'm going to remember your birthday and send you a birthday card.
Yeah.
And if you need a plumber, I know a guy. So I utilize those resources and connect people, because we all want to be needed and we want to feel like we're loved. So all the passions that I have, and if I listed all the things that I do, it's a never ending list. I love to challenge, to play, and I love to have people on the bus with me doing those things. Years ago, I rode a motorcycle, a proverbial motorcycle. Now I drive a bus. So before I wanted to do things solo, I was selfish. Now I want the biggest double-decker bus there is, and I want everyone to get on it.
It's a sleeper bus too. Yeah.
It's a sleeper bus.
Take a nap
never
if
have
you want.
to get off of it.
Yeah, you stay right there.
Yeah. So my glute tribe is a bunch of ladies that, want to work on developing glutes. So Shelby and I, who's a peer of mine, I said, listen, I've got a group, you've got a group, let's put them together and we'll create from that space. And she's quite literally the queen of glutes. I don't need to lead. She designs it. I bring my crew and we play.
That's awesome.
I have a group of runners that I run with every Sunday morning at 7 a.m. We've run in 6 degrees. We ran in 33 degrees on Sunday. We run in snow. We run in hail. The weather does not matter. We're dedicated to run. We're going to run rim to rim in the Grand Canyon. We're running a relay race in July. We're running Cirque Series. We have goals, so weather does not delay, doesn't interrupt. We're purposeful. I have one of my businesses that I'm working on with a business partner it's called Relationships on Fire. It's a model of relationship designed to enhance couples in their development and their vision and where they want to go. We use pillars to kind of curate what their next year, 5 months, 2 months, next day looks like. And because relationships matter to me, I'm part of that podcast and that business. I have a mental health business that I work on with another business partner where we quite literally do trail therapy. Because if you're outside in nature, you're this big. Yes. So you get you get gratitude, you get humility, and you realize that whatever problems that you're dealing with really aren't that bad. Mm-hmm. They're not that bad. So I essentially curate my life around these tribal groups that are all based on connection.
It's not going to the bar. It's not just going and hanging out at a game, going to sports, right? Not that, those things are, I guess, always bad, but you have created a tribal feel, and you've created a life that revolves around health and fitness in a way that is attractive. It's alluring. It's connective. It's something I think is enviable for people. And yet there are going to be some people that might be listening to this podcast while they're driving to or from work. There may be people that listen to this episode while they're working out, and they're doing it on the elliptical all by themselves. And they're thinking, oh, I'm so sad. I'm so, I'm overweight. And that point that you just made of these different tribes and how you've structured this, it simply is just a matter of reaching out and finding some people that you can be connected to, right?
Simple. It's quite simple. What do you need? Like, listen, I have a Tuesday 1 p.m. play group. We meet at a CrossFit gym, and we write on the board 5 exercises, and we repeat 3 or 4 rounds. It's play.
Yeah.
It's our Picasso opportunity, our creative outlet, and we simply play. It's not to punish, not to suffer. It's simply play. But what it means is you need to get out of your comfort zone and talk to other human beings. Hey, listen, I've got this goal. Yes. It seems like you have the same goal. Hey, I see you at the gym all the time. Let's be friends. Steve, it's like we did as kids. We're on a playground. Hey, you want to play with me?
Yep.
Yeah, let's play.
Simple.
It's that simple. But what we often do is get into our own heads and say, well, Steve doesn't like me. He didn't make eye contact with me. So he doesn't like me. You walk into the gym and you create stories, or you walk into any space, and what we do is we create stories, what we think people are thinking, and that is not real. Yep. So I lead every space that I go into. I lead with a smile, and each of you know, because you see me, I'm always smiling. Miles, you know this.
I do.
And if you lead with a smile, you give people zero opportunity other than smiling right back at you. And that creates an openness, a space for them to come towards you, and then you can make the connection. So I'm kind of like in sales, I'm always closing the deal. So for me, closing the deal is making the connection.
Yeah.
Okay. And that starts with, Steve, I love that black shirt that you're wearing. Where did you get it? Compliment people. They want to feel good. Yep. And then that creates the opening for you to make connection.
I think I want to make sure we introduce the elephant in the room, though, because a lot of people don't get into the multiple activities that you're talking about because they tell themselves a story. They tell themselves, I'm not good at that, right? I mean, you bike, you run, you ski, you snowboard, you surf, you do yoga, you got into acro yoga, you've done so many different things. And in a minute, we'll talk a little bit more about the competition between you and Miles shooting these crazy shots from all over the place in basketball.
That wasn't a competition. That wasn't competition.
Okay.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that wasn't.
But the elephant in the room is really that people don't try. They tell themselves a narrative. They say, well, I'm not a basketball player. I'm not a cyclist. I'm not a skier. Oh, I'm this age and I can't do that. Or I'm, this, whatever. There's a story that they tell. How do you get people over that? You've obviously gotten over that. And I think you are probably the best example I know. at someone as someone who has gotten over those stories to just jump in and try things and just to go do it. But how do you help people, Surba, to get over that narrative?
One of the best ways to do it, and both of you, I know, have implemented this in your personal lives. I have my clients close their eyes and envision their body doing whatever it is, that story that they've created, that's the antithesis. So if we need to jump on a plyo box, and this is when we can all, like, we've experienced, right? That client that, I can't. No. Close your eyes. See yourself jumping on that box. Because once we've created in that mind, we've seen it, the muscles just follow.
Yep.
So I have two friends that are learning to ski, and I'm teaching them to ski. So I take them to a learner portion of the ski resort, and we just play, try this, do this, see if it works. I video, we watch it. And once the success has been built, we build upon it. So my advice to any and everyone, let me use another example in my life. I've recently understood that cold is actually my friend.
Yeah.
Okay. I used to be a complete antagonist to cold. I love 110 degrees. I love heat, humidity. But when the temperatures drop below 50, I disappeared. No longer the case. I made a deal with myself. I'm going to work outside, play outside for at least 5 minutes. So I did that. Then it was 10 minutes. Then it was 20 minutes. And now I can play in pretty sub-Arctic temperatures, 5-6 degrees, blowing snow, doesn't matter to me, or 35. And it has strengthened my mind. It has enhanced my neurotransmitters. It has given me dopamine rush, endorphins, all of those things in a daily basis. Sometimes I do it twice a day. I've broken a code to living a better life by attacking something that previously controlled my life. So I went from living for 9 months of a year to now I live 12 months. I'm fully expressed, fully engaged, and I bring other people into the fray every single day. Someone joins me outside every day. And it's the greatest thing in the world because I change lives. So my advice is the best way to enhance your life, to do things you never thought you could do before, is simply take the first step. Just try it. What if you fail? Who cares? What if Miles misses the shot? Probably going to happen. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Oh, what a great dig.
Hey, there's a YouTube.
All love.
There's a YouTube video that was circulating years ago, and it pops up every once in a while. If you guys seen it, it's shot down on the side of a mountain. I guess there's a musical concert going on, and one guy starts to dance.
Yeah.
Really nutty.
Lesson of the first follower. Yep.
Yeah, and then the first follower comes up, and at the end of the video, everybody's dancing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
One of my favorites.
When you start, because people are always asking for permission.
Right.
It's the famous story of breaking the 4-minute mile. It wasn't the person who broke the 4-minute mile. It was a year later, 80 people broke it.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So the 80 people were given permission.
Yes.
And that's basically what we're talking about. You start, and there will be people that will follow.
Yeah. But Miles, you're alluding to this. Give yourself permission.
Right.
Give yourself.
Right.
And that means, Steve, that also means that, like, you may fail. So what?
Yep.
Right.
So what? You may fall. Get up. Who cares? So in play, we started with this conversation. In play, there's no win. When you play, you really are just living in joy and you're fully expressed. So if the intention is to play, then who cares if you don't achieve the end goal? If the painting looks terrible, doesn't matter. Perspective is everything. You painted, you expressed. You lived fully. That's it.
There's a famous chef named Massimo Bottura.
Yep.
He's a Michelin rated chef. And one day they were creating a dessert. It was a cookie. And they created the dessert.
Oh, I love this.
And one of the waiters accidentally broke the cookie.
Right.
And instead of cleaning it up, Massimo looked at it and said, "We are going to serve a broken cookie." And the broken cookie became this classic dessert.
Right.
Out of somebody breaking the cookie by accident.
Listen, it's your best self, and we're all broken, right? I mean, that broken cookie is a masterpiece. Yeah. So essentially, we're all our own masterpieces. Right. But what we're looking for is something that's unattainable, and that's perfection, right? So if we stop at trying to achieve perfection, we can really be our best selves.
Yeah.
Most of the great creations of the world are created by mistake, right? I mean, you think of rubber, Teflon, Wheaties, like all of these things. If you go back through and you look at history of all the things that were invented, that happened by mistake, that's the reality. And our lives are the same way. And I love, Surba, how you talk about that. Really, when you play, it doesn't matter. There is no winning or losing, and you are going to fail during play. And so that's okay. That's an important part of this, is that you just get out there and you start to play and you have fun with it.
And you find, oftentimes you find with these mistakes, these screw ups or whatever, if you listen carefully to yourself, that is your original voice. That is your genuine self.
Yes.
To chase perfection is chasing something else. But and perfection as an ideal, as a soft ideal, there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
As long as you recognize when you don't achieve that perfection, you are really close to your originality, and you're really close to your genuineness.
I record a lot of my content, and when I fail, I laugh.
Yeah.
I laugh.
So you're one of the crazy ones then, is what you said. It's either cry, laugh, or do you get mad? You're one of the crazies?
I'm one of the crazies, and I'm okay with it.
Yeah,
I'm not in the norm, but I laugh. Now we know. But I quite literally laugh at myself, because it's joyful sometimes to fail, because it's simply an opportunity to do it again.
Yeah.
Let's do it again.
Right.
I do the same thing, and I love it. It's a lot of fun. I want to go back for just a second though, sir, because you talked about cold, and you talked about how you started out with 5 minutes and then you built up from there. And that's an important point for anybody starting a new habit, but there's more to it. Who would have told you that was the thing that you needed to dominate, that was the thing that you needed to tackle next? Now, I'm a big believer that there's a voice that's inside of us that is kicking and saying, hey, this is the next thing. This is your next level of evolution. I would imagine there was something inside of you that was telling you that you needed to start tackling the cold. And so little by little, you went into the cold as a way to tackle it. But I don't think most people would say, oh yeah, that's the next thing that I've got to do. Right. How did you decide that the cold was going to be the thing that you were going to tackle next?
It goes back to understanding an area of weakness. So as a trainer, I always look for, if someone's not performing well, I need to look at some area that they're weak at, and I need to enhance it and make it better. Then they can perform. So a book I read entitled Dopamine Nation gave me the source code.
Okay.
And it analyzed, actually the research is that if you look at addiction, if you look at pain, if you look at suffering, higher level of pain, if you interject a low level of pain, it cuts off that higher level. So to give you an example, if you're a heroin addict and someone gives you naloxone, that small dosage of the drug cuts off that higher level of addiction. If you have a migraine and you do some acupuncture, that small level of short-term pain that's not going to kill you cuts off that higher level of pain. So for me, I understood that in the 9 months of the year that I excel, in the summer, I run at least 10 miles a day. I'm up outside adventuring on a mountain till 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night. I realized that when the season changed, fall, I became someone else. I became someone that did not live fully expressed. I was incongruent. So after reading Dopamine Nation, I realized that if I interject cold into my world, I would cut off that depression. I would cut off that person that hibernated, that person that felt sorry for himself because he was cold and he didn't want to do anything, that I was depressed, that I was craving sugar, that I was craving salt, that I was like all of the negatives came into my life in 3 months because I didn't address my fear of the cold. So I touched the cold. I leaned into the cold, and I became someone that no longer, I'm from Africa. I'm from Sierra Leone, which is on the equator, but I've adopted the Viking mentality. I am going to attack the cold. I'm going to thrive in it. You ask me how I'm doing every day, I'm thriving. If you see me at 7 o'clock, I've already worked out at 5:30 outside.
Yeah.
I wake up on purpose. And if you own a piece of what previously owned you, you no longer are impacted by that thing anymore. So I had to break the code, and it's made me a happier person. It's made me healthier. It's made me purposeful, and it's made me redesigned. I'm quite literally redesigned at 50 years old. I'll be 50 in a month. I'm redesigned, and I'm living my most excellent, best life.
Say that again. If you own a piece of what owned you, that is powerful.
Listen, if you're renting space in a place that owns you, you're going to be paying dues all the time.
Wow.
But I broke the code, and I bought the property. And I bought the property in the cold. And that means that I'm the owner. I'm the master of my fate, the master of my destiny. And no longer do I live by this principle that I'm not someone that lives for 12 months out of the year. I'm someone that owns my own life. I dictate. I'm not impacted by anything else other than what's in my space, my 3-foot space that I can control. So no longer leasing with the option to buy. I own it in perpetuity, and that's my life.
That is beautiful. I love that. Yeah. I mean, that is just so powerful. If our listeners get nothing else but that, I mean, that is so powerful. Well, Surba, I know we're coming up on our time. A few more questions that I want to just throw at you real quick. You mentioned that you have listened to how many books over the past 2-3 months? 180? Is that what you said?
Oh, no. This is since June. Okay. I am up to, hold on. I have an app that tracks my book reading, and I'll tell you the exact number. So my thirst for knowledge is it's unsatiated. I can't read enough. I can't get enough knowledge. So 137 books in 7 months.
130. Wow. Okay. So give us 2 or 3 things that stand out the most. What would you give to our listeners out of the 137 books that you've read? What are the top 2 or 3 things that you could pass along?
Number one thing is you have controllables and uncontrollables in your life. So the only thing you can control are those controllables. So if you let go of the things that you can't control, you'll be fine. But we worry about things that have nothing to do with us. We worry about what people think of us. We worry about what we've done wrong. Don't worry about those. You control your controllables, what you can impact right now. Let go of the past. Don't worry about the future. It's right now and being present. The next aspect, and this is one of my favorite books, Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning is one of the greatest books that every mindset coach, from the Ryan Holidays to the Stephen Kotlers to Brene Brown's, they all go back to this. And Viktor Frankl says that suffering ceases to be negative or suffering if there's meaning attached to it. Okay. So those people who have goals, say a triathlete, will work out for 3 to 5 hours a day because they have an end goal in mind. When you have an end goal, you are willing to put yourself through anything to make it happen.
Yeah.
So it's no longer suffering. And it's not suffering because your perspective is so finely tuned to the end goal. So when I go to play and it's 110 degrees outside, I don't care. I'm hydrated prior to it. I have my electrolytes with me. I have cold water with me in case I get overheated. It's not suffering because I have meaning to it. So Viktor Frankl, if you want to start your mindset change, read Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl.
Beautiful. Great tips. Surba, as you have evolved over the years, what is something that you used to believe that you no longer do?
Oh, man. So I probably questioned if I was lovable. And in this space, I don't care if I'm lovable anymore because I know I am. I don't have to question it. I know that I'm worthy of love because I give love. I lead with love without the expectation of return. So the mindset change that if I create the opportunity to spread love to people, I will receive love exponentially in so many forms. The agape form, which is just humanity, relationship, all of it. So I'm worthy of love because I lead with love.
That's a beautiful perspective. I love how you say you don't necessarily even care, because
I don't care.
That's not the focus, because now you're living from a space of love, which love is giving, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that is beautiful.
Yeah.
Evolution takes time and, consistency. If you were to give our listeners one simple tip that you would like them to do over time so that they could push their evolution forward, what would it be?
Ask your friends and family members their top 10 books that they've read.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's a great tip.
So I did that recently, and it opened up my eyes to, so a limiting belief that I had in the past was that I wasn't a good writer. So I met someone that's an author, and we're going to co-write a book because I asked him what his top 10 list of books that he read in the previous year. So when you ask someone, where do you get your knowledge, and you're an important person in my life, you now have an access to their soul. And they often, if they know you well enough, will recommend books that lead you down a pathway of discovery and evolution.
That's a beautiful practice. Final question for you. Over the years, there was this back and forth between you and Miles, who was going to make this shot from this point, who was going to make the shot from the half court. Videos would go back and forth. Who won?
Miles, will you tell the people what they need to hear?
As he takes another sip of his tea.
What they need to hear.
Yeah.
Oh,
you left town, Miles. You left town, Miles. You left town as a loser. I mean, is that the case?
No, that's not accurate at all.
Okay. All right.
But I understand. I understand how you need to hold on to that narrative. That's fine. That's
okay.
Fine.
All right.
Hang on. I was going to be a little bit more generous and say it is open-ended until one of us is in the casket.
Or there we go.
I love the way you think, Miles. I love the way you think.
So this is not ended yet.
This is
Steve,
not
just
ended.
know that, Steve, I will strap on the inversion boots onto a bar and force Miles to make a shot, hang it upside down. Okay.
I love that.
I'll do it. I will do it.
Next time we're at the gym, I want to see that. We got to do that. I'll be the videographer, Surba.
Done, Steve.
Yeah, when I saw that online, when I went on Facebook and saw it, I was pretty much like, I called my friend Jamie and said, because I told him to look at it, and I said, we got to figure some shit out, Jamie, because I don't know where to go after that.
Right. You remember how creative I am, so know that the bag is always full.
Yes.
That's right.
Yeah.
But now here we go with a guy comes down and he shoots a jump shot.
Yeah.
Pretty simple and plain. And another guy comes down and does some whirling dervish between his legs and he dunks it. It's just 2 points.
Right.
Yeah. Now, I will give you this.
Because
of the range of your shot, that would be 3 points.
Yeah. Steph and I, we cook in different areas of the court.
Yeah, I was going to say that from where you're shooting that when you were upside down, that is definitely a 3-pointer, if not a 5-pointer in my book.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you, Steve.
I think Steph Curry would say, you know what? I got nothing on this guy for this one.
Yeah, no doubt about that. I love it. Well, and on that note, folks, it is time for us to wrap up another episode of the Evolve Podcast. We want to thank our guest, Surba Tucker, for joining us today, and my co-host, W. Miles Riley. Surba, what is you've got several social media platforms where you share all of the creative stuff that you're doing. Where's the best place for people to find you?
The place that's a jumping off is going to be my Surba Fit Instagram page. And from there, I load similar content to Facebook, to TikTok, to YouTube, but Surba Fit is the jumping off spot.
Awesome. And we will link that in the notes. So folks, if you want to go watch some amazing videos, get some creative ideas on how to play in your workouts, not just work, but go out there and play. Check out those links. Remember, folks, that it does take time and consistency to evolve, but first you have to disrupt. And now it's time for you to get out there and evolve.
Evolve.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Evolve Podcast. Follow us on your favorite podcast app, and if you haven't done so, please give us a rating. As an independent podcast, it really helps us get more reach. This podcast is part of our mission to help millions of people evolve into the best versions of themselves. Please check out our coaching services at evolve-cast.com or pick up some of our Evolve merch. Until next time, keep evolving.